Mikdash is the chapter deals with praising Hashem. Shir Shayom. And the reason why that shir, the Gemara says, why was that song, right? How does it go? How does Yom Chamishi go? Yom Chamishi goes, Haninu Lelakim, let's sing God's like Rina, right? You know the name Rina? We say Rina is singing praise because there's something unique about Thursday because about all the fish and all the different types of fish and all types of birds and animals, so many different species that were created with the beauty. You see the God's great wonders. You see that, Haninu Elokim? You see that? Rabbi's not making it up. Right? Look, Useinu. We right? We sing praises because of the beautiful, beautiful birds. He's. I thought you would appreciate that. Yeah, the birds, the fish. I mean, that's how some of them commentaries. That's the birds and the fish. Okay, we are on Vavam and Aleph. We are on 6a. We just said, just in honor of Max, who hasn't been here recently, we'll start the piece of the Gemara in his honor. Go back a few lines. Review is always good. And we welcome back, remind me your first name. Elaza? What's your first name? Meir. Easy to forget the name, Meir. We welcome Meir back as well. Tana Rabbanan, we are on 6A, 6A2. The first column. Tana Rabbanan. Arba Rishayot l'Shabbat. We said there are 4 different domains when it comes to Shabbat. There is something called, we all know, Rishut HaYachid, a private domain. There's something called the Rishut HaRabim, a public domain. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning, Rabbi.
There's 682 on the top right column. There's the public domain, the private domain. Then there's something called a Carmelit. A Carmelit, like Tosfos says, quotes the Yerushalmi, the word Carmel is a mix of 2 words. And he says Carmel represents something that's not, Carmel is soft, but it's not moist and it's not dry. It's in between. That's what the word Carmelit means. So too, Carmelit, a Carmelit is in between. It's not this and it's not that. It's not private. It's not public. It's an in-between. So it's just something that's not moist, that's not wet, something that's not dry. So it's something that's in between. So too, that's the idea of the word of Carmelit. So if you look at the, Carmel, so 2 words, Rach, from the Rach is soft, and the word Mol, is ripe, not overly moist. So that's the split of the word Carmel. If you look at note number the art scroll where they quote this Tosfot that we said, that's the Carmel. Others say Carmel is like refers to like a widow. A widow is Carmel, and a widow is also because she's not a married lady, but she's not a woman who was never married before. She's like, because she was married. She's not a virgin. So that's a that's a Carmelite. You're not this, but you're not that. You're something in between. So that's what this Carmelite is, this domain that's not private. It's not public. So what is it? It's its own breed, and it has its own laws, unique laws of a Carmel. The Gemara will identify what is this thing that's not private and not public. You want to call it, it's like semi-private, semi-public, or not really. I wouldn't call it semi. I would call it has some similarities to public and some similarities to private, but it's not it, and therefore that it's its own category. And Makom Patur. And then we have something else that's a Makom Betur, which is an area that's an exempt area, because a carmelite on a rabbinic level, you cannot carry in a carmelite 4 amot, you can't carry 6 to 8 feet in a carmelite, but a mokum betur, and you can't carry from public property to the carmelite or from private property to the carmelite. When it comes to, good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Rabbi.
But when it comes to a mokum betur, this exempt area, technically from public, you could just put it onto this exempt area, or this exempt area you could put into public. That or from private onto this exempt area. We'll have to identify what those things are. So that's what the Gemara now is identifying, these different some of the laws about these categories. Mark, we just said before, we quoted Tosfot from Yerushalmi, that the word Carmelit, that we said this is a domain that's not public, that's not private, comes from the Yerushalmi says it's from the two words of the word mo, which represents full. Full means it's ripe, but it's not overly moist. And we said, and the rach, and also it's also soft, meaning it's not dry. That means something that's not dry, it's not moist, it's in between. So that's what a carmel is, something that's in between. Good morning, Asaf. And now the Gemara says, Ezehi Rishut HaYachid. What is a private domain? So we said yesterday that if you have charitz shehu amuk asara v'rochav arba, if you have a ditch, someone goes ahead and he digs a ditch in public property, and that ditch now has a certain depth. It's 10 tefachim deep. It's about, let's say, 40 inches deep, anywhere between 35 and 40 inches deep, and has a width of 4 tefachim, about 15 inches by 15 inches. That's already considered a private area. It has its 4 walls around it. The ditch, the walls of the ground become the walls itself. And that's considered private.
Does it need to be owned by anybody?
It doesn't seem to need to be owned by anybody. It seems that now it's private. It's considered a private area.
So if I take a public area like Shut Rabin and put a ditch in it, and in there it's private.
Right. It might be that you might not have a right to make the ditch. It might be considered that it's just like if a person puts up a building on someone else's property, that building might be private, but you stole the guy's property. You put up a private property on someone else's.
Still a building. Right.
Still a building. So that's what I would say. So this is considered private. And if you go ahead and if you take from this ditch, so I'm saying if in your house, in your own courtyard, if you make a ditch, that obviously would be private. That's a private area. That's private, right? On a Torah level, there's no question that ditch is private. If it's in your backyard, you make a ditch in your backyard. But here the chidush is if you make a ditch in public property, and now that ditch becomes private, and therefore, let's say you want to take water, draw water from lower down. You now have a big issue. What do you do on Shabbat? You're thirsty on Shabbat, and let's say so what do they do when they go to Beit HaMikdash, and let's say you're thirsty, so we're going to see in the Gemara that they had to make the area above the ditch, above the well, a private area as well. Because if you're going to take water from a private area and bring it up to the public street, that is a violation of Shabbat. Going from private to public. So therefore, we're going to see they made they did certain things for the top, on top of the ditch, that area on top, that area, you'll see how they put 4 different petitions, and we'll see the pictures, how they enclose that area above the ground to be in order to enable you, Asaf, to take the water from the ditch, private, and to make that you bring it from private to private. We're going to see that. Now, even though what's interesting to note, we talk about what do you say? No. I'm saying here we're talking about a ditch, but I'm saying, but we're going to see what did they do when they had it when they actually had to draw water on Shabbat. How do you draw water? You can't in a public area. You can't if you have a public street with a well. How do you lift up the water from you have to do something to bring it the water from below to above. It's interesting to note that if you have a house, let's say you're in an area where there's no a roof, no a roof. If you have a house and you have a domain that's adjacent to your friend, to go from your house to your friend's house, you listening? Let's say there's a door between your house and his house. The rabbi said you cannot carry also without making some sort of a roof. It has to be between your house and his house, because the rabbis were afraid that if you carry from this private domain, this is my domain, to his domain, there's a concern you might come to carry from your domain to public domain. So that's something that's very interesting. Well, maybe we'll see more about as time. We all know that if you have a area in front of your house that's used by both of you, a courtyard. I have my house, you have your house, and there's a courtyard in front of us. So for me to carry from my house to the courtyard, we have to make something called an Erev Chatzerot. We have to make it like take bread from each one of us and put it in one of our houses, and that will allow us to carry from the house to the courtyard, because since the courtyard is used by both of us, so there's a concern that if I could carry from my house to the courtyard, which has some similarities to a public area, because it's not specifically mine, if it be just my house to my courtyard, that's no issue. But my house to a courtyard, which is shared by another person, therefore the rabbis created the Erev Chatzerot. And therefore also that's also issues in places where there's no Erev to carry into your hallway.
But there's no issue if I live next door to someone and there's my driveway is in between, which is outside, and there's no eruv there. If I walk out of my side door and I go into his side door, his private to private, there's no problem.
So that's what we're pointing out, Mark. If there's no eruv, if let's say the city has no eruv, it would be a problem. How do you like that? How do you like that? How do you like that moment, Mark?
Really? Even you hold that today.
What did you say, Mark?
You're holding it.
Yes, we hold that today. We hold that today, yes. And I spoke it over with some people in the yeshiva, and everybody is in agreement. There's no question about that. And also today, this morning, I even found Rabbi Otzko. They called Rabbi Otzko now Gemara that mentions that. I'll show you. Look at note. Note.
But you're never picking it up. You're not placing it down. We're never getting into that area of uplifting it and putting it down if it's private to private.
No, you're okay, but that's the chidush. My Gemara, see, my Gemara on Vav and Aleph on 6a, they have something called Likutei Rashi.
What if the houses are less than 4 amot to each other?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Going from one domain, very good, Ralph. From one private domain.
To only apply to public.
Right, right. Public or going to a Carmelit, whatever, or carrying within a Carmelit. Right. Carry within a public property. So in my Gemara, they have over here. I had a quote where they quote where it is found this law that you can't go from private to private. Let's see if I find it. Here it is. They quote, this is quoted from Rashi in Eruvin, it looks like, where he quotes, you can't go from Rishut HaYachid LeRishut HaYachid. It says, the rabbis made a gzera not to go from private to private, carry from, maybe you're going to carry from private to public. And in the art scroll, in today's art scroll, Mark, for you to see that, somebody wants to see in today's art scroll, it's one of the notes. It says, in one of the notes of today, was probably, if you look at note number...
Cold for you.
Sorry, thank you.
Note number 31. Let's see if it's over there. It's a long note. One of these notes over here. Yeah. Page 683. Everyone look at 683, note number 31. However, you see the second line from the bottom. Everyone got it? However, to safeguard against transferring, forgot it, column 1, 683. You got it, Max? However, to safeguard against transferring from between private and public domains, the rabbis prohibited carrying even between private domains owned by two different people, black and white. For this reason, okay, so it's right over this. I just wanted to show that that point. That seems to be universal, Mark, which I think people are not aware of. This point, I think people are not aware of. Now, I presume most. Okay, let's continue in our Gemara. So back to we welcome Emmanuel, who's just joined us on the screen. So the Gemara says, and then we said, the Gemara said regarding these areas. Man, the Gemara also spoke about a gedesh, ugavua, a sort of rachav arba. If you have a fence, a wall that has a certain height, that's 10 tvachim high, and has a certain, what do you say? Tevach is about 3.5 inches. But it'll be 10, but if it's 3.5 times 10 tvach, it's around 36 inches or something like that.
40 inches.
40 inches. It's around the size of this table. Right, this table is about, how high is this table? It's about 40 feet. What? Very good, very good. Now, so too, the top of, if you have a wall that's about 40 inches high, like this size, and if it's 15 inches by 15 inches, that also be considered a private area. And the Gemara says, then we also spoke about the Rishut Rabbim yesterday, and then we got up to let's say we'll start from the piece Motzi 682 on the bottom, and we spoke about Motzi Rishut Yochel Zu Rishut Rabbim Zu. We said you can't carry from this private place to this public place, right? That's the Torah prohibition to carry from private to public. We said we can't carry from public to private. If you carried, went from private to public or public to private, now on 683, if he did it unintentionally, he's obligated a korban chatat, a sin offering for violating the Shabbat. And if he did it b'mezid, if he did it intentionally, then it's anosh karet, which is he gets cut off. The Rambam says he gets cut off from the next world, and also might die before 60. Different punishments for violating the Shabbat intentionally without witnesses. But if there's witnesses and there's warning, v'niskal, he gets, as we said yesterday, the highest type of capital punishment. There's 4 different types of capital punishments. We gave an example yesterday, something called, we don't have it, called electric chair, but there's something called electric chair. That's how they used to kill people in America. Now they don't, now they make it much smoother. They give them a little injection and it's over. So in a certain sense, we had we didn't have electric chair, but we had also different types. We have one punishment is with the sword. That's considered a lighter punishment compared to the stoning, or drinking hot lead. Hot lead that's from the higher level punishment, but the highest punishment is skila. It's stoning. What'd you say? A skila. So skila is the highest punishment, and Shabbat, and maybe perhaps the Torah is teaching us the seriousness of Shabbat, how people have to, by giving it the highest level punishment, maybe hopefully that will deter. We're not looking, the Torah is not looking for anyone to get killed. We want people just to do the right things in life. Therefore, it's very rare that the court will ever kill somebody, because to kill somebody, you have to actually be warned and told you, by the way, if you do this, you're going to get, you have to do it immediately also, right after the warning. So therefore, it's very rare that a court actually killed somebody. There's a letter from Ramosha Feinstein to the Governor Carey. The U Carey Tunnel, right? The Queens Manhattan. That tunnel was named in his honor. So Carey, as governor of New York State, wanted to know what's the Jewish opinion on capital punishment. So he must probably did his homework, and I presume one of his aides said, if you want to know the Jewish opinion, the religious opinion, the Orthodox opinion, you got to ask Rabbi Feinstein. So around 1980, 81, there's a letter from Moshe Feinstein to Governor Carey in the Igrot Moshe, where he writes, it's very rare that we killed somebody, but we have it, it's on our books. We have such a thing, of course, and the point of it, he said, was more to serve people to recognize how serious the murder is, that if they could get killed for committing a murder. And he says, thank God, our community, we haven't been giving the capital punishment for so many years. We don't have our courts that we could give capital punishment. But look, the people we are very good in and we don't really, we don't really kill, we're not committing murders. And one of the things is because people realize by learning the Torah, studying the Torah, by the fact that there is such a law in the books that there's death for it, people recognize the seriousness. Even, it's interesting, it's not even a deterrent in a sense that it's not that we're not giving the capital punishment today. So it's not that it's that level of deterrent that we're going to kill the guy if he does it, but the recognition, understanding, and knowledge that this carries with it this punishment of death if it met all those requirements is enough that people should realize that how serious of an offense it is to kill somebody. And Ramosha, I think, says in that letter, but if there's a special time, it sounds like Ramosha was saying.
In general, we don't randomly kill people.
Right.
Say the knowledge of that is the deterrent. I think it's not in the thing. But on Shabbat, if I have a job, if someone warns you.
And yet people are not as careful.
Right. You don't believe that. That's nonsense. Look, I'm doing it. No, it's going to warn me. I'll do it. And you can't about that.
Right. So maybe there's a mix between that and the deterrent, perhaps. Maybe that also definitely might help as well. Okay, we're on 6A3. So now the Gemara says, Aval Yam, but the ocean and Bika, a valley, and, an area of fields, a valley. It's not a place where, now these are open areas. And the fact that these are open areas, they resemble public, but on the other hand, it's not a commonly used public, there's no big major public traffic over there. So those areas are not considered public according to the Torah, and they're not private either. So those areas are not this and not that, and they're going to be the Carmelite. They're going to be rabbinically, the rabbi said you can't carry from your private house to the ocean, private to the valley, or from public to the valley, or public to the ocean. No, it's not English word. Right, it's not an English word. It's not an English. It's me saying it's not. It's a Hebrew. Tosfos says it's a Hebrew word based on. It's a mix of words, and there's another opinion that karmelis maybe is like an Aramaic word for the word almana, widow. It's like the word armala is like a widow is like Carmel, and why? And this is like a widow, like we said earlier, because a widow is not a married woman, but she's not a virgin. So she's not this. She's not a girl that was never married, and she's not a girl that is married. So that she's like in between. So that's the same thing with Carmelite. You're not this, but and you're not that. No, right? They're Carmelite. Right, right. There is no trans. They're going to translate it. Right. It's a new. It's a new category. It's its own creature, so to speak. That's the Carmelite. Now, so then the Gemara and the Venus, which we spoke about, the Venus. That's the space between the stores. That's an elevated area, like the benches or that area where the merchants hang out. So that it's not a public thoroughfare. But it's not private. So we said Var Carmelite, and then it says and Carmelite. The Gemara is going to say, what do you mean? These are all Carmelite. What do you mean? You're saying the ocean is a Carmelite, the valley is a Carmelite, this is a Carmelite. And then I say and Carmelite. So the Gemara is going to explain this is coming to add a different type of case. We'll see that in the Gemara. And the Gemara says, Eina, these Carmelites, so to speak, lo kirshut rabim, the lo kirshut yachid. They don't have a status of public property. They don't have a status of what? Private property. Ve'ein no sin v'notim b'tocha. You can't carry 4 amot. You can't carry 4 amot or more in the Carmelite. And the nasa v'natam b'tocha. But let's say you violated the law, right? He carried 4 amot, 6 to 8 feet, 10 amot in the Carmelite. He's not chayav. It's not. We said it's not. It doesn't have. Why say rabbinical only? Right. Correct. Correct. Just like a Carmelite, if you carry, right, this is the Carmelite. If you carry 4 amot or more in this domain, so we say patur. He is what? Patur. He is exempt. He does not have to bring a korban chatat. He does not have to bring a sin offering. Now, ve'emotziin mitocha. We can't take from this Carmelite, Carmelite area, this new domain, Asaf, l'reshut harabim. You can't carry from it to a public place, and you can't carry me'reshut harabim l'tocha. You can't carry from public to it as well. Ve'imach nisin. What is it? You can't carry all spreads, both. You can't carry from private into the Carmelite or from public into the Carmelite. Ve'imach nisin. Now the Gemara says here, ve'imach nisin. You can't bring in me'reshut hayachid l'tocha. You can't bring from a private area to this Carmelite. Like we said, the Carmelite resembles public, private. We give it status as a public and private. It has all the stringencies. You can't carry from the Carmelite into private property. But again, if you violated that law, if you carried from it or you brought into it, then you're exempt. Meaning to say, on a Torah level, this area has a status of a mokom patur, of an exempt area. Still made a sin, 100%. Right, rabbinical sin, not a Torah sin that would require a sin offering of like that. Now, so that's a good question. So there's something called lashes. Now again, unintentionally, there's never lashes. The court never metes out a physical punishment for unintentional sin. The only time the court could give a punishment unintentional is like, let's say, a korban chatat, a sin offering, or a certain offering. Never actual physical for unintentional. But for intentional, there is something called malkut rabbanan, malkut mardut, a person who's a rebellious person that rebels against rabbinic law. That would have to be researched exactly when would the rabbis give lashes for violating their laws, and when would the rabbis not give? There's something called rabbinic lashes. There is such a concept. Now, chatzeirot shel rabim. If let's say you have a courtyard where number of houses, You come into this courtyard, open up into this courtyard. Umuvo'od she'ena mufuloshin. And you have also streets, or I call it an alleyway. That means it's like it has three walls. So it's really private property on a Torah level. This is an alleyway. It belongs to the houses. The houses, the courtyard. When it goes as the houses, open up to the courtyard. The courtyard opens up to the alleyway, and the alleyway opens up to the public property. Okay, you got it? Houses, courtyard, alleyway, and public property. And the alleyway has, let's say, three sides, three walls to it. There's a nice picture over here. And besides, no, it's closer to the public property. The alleyway opens up to the public property. And because the alleyway opens up to the public property, see, here's a very nice picture. Maybe we'll send around the picture. This is the alleyway that leads to this is public property. Here's the courtyard should be, I presume, right behind right here, right here. Maybe here's the court. Maybe they open it.
No, between the house and the wall.
Yeah, maybe that's the courtyard. Right.
Here.
Right, yeah, right, that's the courtyard. Right. You want to show everybody, and you see the public property, you see they identify, they call it what's called Reshut Rabim. But as you see that alleyway has three walls to it. Mark, you see that? David, you see the alleyway has three walls to it. So that alleyway is really private. That's a private area because it has those three walls, right? So, but rabbinically, now you see that alleyway is adjacent to public property, correct? Because if you see in that picture, so now the fact that it's close to public property, you're going to have to do something to make sure that people won't carry from the public into this alleyway into this public. So they put up over here like they'll put up boards over here, board over here.
This is like question walking. This is Chayav.
Okay,
Not Torah Doraita. This is right today. You would tell me that this is a problem.
So today, right,
the courtyard, of course, the alleyway.
Right. So today, there's something right. Today, if you can't go from your houses to the courtyard without making an Eruv to join, and you also.
It's not considered enough. That was like.
And that will, but now, for you to go from the courtyard into the alleyway, you also need to go ahead and do something and unite the people. Right. Right, because that courtyard, because we look at the, right. So in that courtyard, if you want to carry within in the courtyard itself, right? So let's say the courtyard but if each house, but my house is my private house, and the courtyard belongs to us, I got to make an Eruv. We gotta take the bread. You have to give a certain amount of bread or whatever, and to unite us. So to go from private to private, also we said you have yes, right. You have a house.
We own between us, this courtyard between us. We own it together, 50/50.
Right.
Or let's say we own even the houses together. Like if we're partners on this development, and the courtyard is owned by the developer.
So you're saying it's owned by now general, right? But now the question is, in your house, are you partners in your particular apartment or not? That will be the question, Mark. If your house, this is my house, this is David's house, but we own this courtyard. So then that's that, right? But if
put up a roof,
get it right, then you need it. But if you both own your house and you both no, you're using the courtyard, but let's say you own the courtyard. But I think if Mark's case would be if Mark and David own everything together as one, then there's no Eruv because that's all. It's all one. It's all private one. But if we're partners, we share, we bought an apartment together. I'm going to double check that, you know what I'm saying? But logically, if me and you own this house, and then me and you own this, there's no private to public. It's all, it's no private to a shared area. It's all, it sounds like everybody's the same. It's one. That's what it sounds like. We're all one. No, it shouldn't be any problem. But when you have your own house, then again, or yourself. If I own this house, and you own this house, but we both own this courtyard, so it has some similarities to a joint owner of a public area, because it's not private mine, it's not private yours, because the courtyard is both of us. So therefore,
that's the case. You still, because of Marit Ayin, still do
I don't know if it's because of Marit. I don't know if it's called Marit. It's more for yourself not to make a mistake that you shouldn't come to carry into public property. The big concern is, we're saying if you own the courtyard together, but if you own your house, the houses together would sound like we're going to we have to look into it more, but it would sound like if everybody owns it together, it's like one entity. Shouldn't be a problem, but we're gonna check it out. Okay, we want to wish everyone time flies, as you know, when you're having fun. Wish everyone a beautiful day, and we're back tomorrow. And we welcome again Emmanuel, Ralph on the screen, and all the best, everybody. Let's have a beautiful davening, a beautiful praise. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.